Welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. The 249th day of the year, the 36th Thursday, and once again, here we are. The country is grieving the horrific and unnecessary loss of life, 2 teenagers and 2 adults, guilty of nothing other than going to school and going to work like any other day. Killed in the Georgia high school shooting yesterday.
I still don't believe this is real. I knew a girl that got shot in her leg, and it really broke me because she was like a sister to me, and I don't know how to react to it.
4 families that will never, ever be the same. Completely devastated for no reason. 9 others injured, hundreds of students and adults traumatized. This is Bianca de la Garza breaking the news during a segment yesterday with former White House Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley.
A live look here, Winder, Georgia, about an hour outside of Atlanta, 25 miles outside of Athens, where there has been a school shooting and a suspect is in custody. Robin, joining our conversation to widen it out a little bit more, is Hogan Gidley. Hogan, this is a tragedy, no doubt. As we look and we wait for more information, there'll also be, talk about who this suspect is. Robin said there might have been metal detectors in this school. A lot as students get back into school so early in the year to be reporting on a tragedy, no doubt, is heartbreaking.
No question. I mean, you can't even imagine what parents of something like this are thinking, the emotions they have at this moment, whether they're being reunited or whether they're having a tough conversation. Obviously, we have a lot more information that needs to come out here. This is an issue that has happened in this country so many times. It's so inexcusable. Safety measures at schools are so important, not just to the lives of those teachers and students, but to the psyche of a community as well. As Robin was just pointing out, thankfully they completed a couple of levels of training here. I know the community at least somewhat. I have a lot of friends in Athens, obviously a lot of friends in Atlanta as well. So going back and forth, you see these little towns off the interstate, and you don't think something like this is ever going to happen in your community, of course. But this is another one of those sad days and sad situations. As more information comes out, I hate to say it, so many people are going to try to make this political, but right now it's focused on the safety and security of these kids,
yes,
and the calmness, the mindset of the parents, but also seeing what the folks on the ground, the first responders, are able to do in these situations. You always hear about heroism in times like this too.
Exactly, the teachers on the front lines as these things unfold, so selfless, protecting their children in many situations. All right, we do have a few updates here. FBI Atlanta has just issued a statement saying FBI Atlanta is aware of the situation at Appalachia High School in Barrow County, and our agents are on scene coordinating with supporting law enforcement.
And we learned soon after the 14-year-old shooter taken into custody by school resource officers had been interviewed by the FBI last spring after receiving anonymous tips. Tips, as in more than one, about threats to commit a school shooting. While there is already a lot of finger-pointing and criticism of the FBI, the agency says it referred the case to the local sheriff's department, who interviewed the then 13-year-old and his father, who said there were hunting guns in the house, but that the teenager did not have any unsupervised access to the guns. And the kid, of course, denied making any of the threats. This is Georgia Bureau of Investigation Director Chris Hosey in a late-night news conference.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office identified and located Gray, who is our suspect in this case. They conducted an investigation at that time, and there was no probable cause for arrest or to take any additional law enforcement action. We're also aware of some previous contacts that the Department of Family and Children's Services in the area had with the suspect and his family, and we are pursuing that avenue as well too, to see if that has any connection with today's incident.
So there were red flags. The FBI, the sheriff's office, already aware of the kid. Potentially other issues at home. The parents, the FBI, the local sheriff's office, all potentially implicated already. And it only took a little more than an hour for the gun control talk to start.
We continue to call on Congress to do something. We need universal background checks. We need ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Require safe storage of firearms. Invest and violence prevention programs and pass a national red flag law. Enough is enough. And I cannot say this enough, which is enough is enough. We cannot allow this to happen in our communities.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, and as I mentioned, that wasn't that long after the shooting. The victims hadn't even been identified yet. I don't seem to remember them saying anything about gun control when President Trump was nearly assassinated by a long rifle with a scope. Maybe I just missed that. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy was one of the first Washington lawmakers to address it.
Obviously, we grieve for the family and everything, but this is not a new situation.
It's not, and it's horrible. We've had a number of mass shootings this year. I don't think the answer is more laws. We've got hundreds, maybe thousands of gun control laws on the books. I don't think we need more gun control. What we need, obviously, in my opinion, is more idiot control. But I don't know how to control people who are sick or they're just evil in a free country as big as the United States of America, over 300 million people. You can just do the best you can, but as long as we have a Second Amendment, you're going to have idiots that abuse it.
It seems to me, though, there was a case in Michigan not too long ago where parents were held accountable for what the child did. I have no idea what this 14-year-old is like or whatever. Yeah. I do know that the shooting, at least the reports for the attempted assassination of former President Trump, as well as the man who's actually murdered in July, is that he certainly had strange behavior beforehand. And I cannot believe when you've got, that some of the strange behavior isn't noted ahead of time, and that, why people aren't reporting it or why we aren't doing something. Because, it's never like, a normal person. At best, they say right away, well, you seem like a nice kid. But when you dig deeper, there are some red flags.
Well, you're right. And when we look back with 20/20 hindsight, in many cases, the people who perpetuate these crimes, you say, well, it should have been obvious. But, as 20/20 hindsight, all I can tell you is that there are a large swath of my colleagues in Washington, D.C., who think the answer is to get rid of the Second Amendment. They would solve drunk driving by getting rid of all sober drivers. And I don't think the Second Amendment allows that. And again, we can pass more laws, but we've got plenty of laws. I don't think we've got a gun control problem. It's an idiot control problem.
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy on the record with Greta Van Susteren. You are also going to hear the term assault weapon thrown around a lot today, right? They do that on purpose to make it sound like people are walking around with military weapons or something. Technically, if a rifle is used to kill someone, yes, it is an assault weapon. But a handgun, a revolver, could be an assault weapon. A bow and arrow, a knife. They could all be used as assault weapons, but you don't ever hear that, right? Assault bow and arrows. And unlike the Parkland school shooting in Florida and the Uvalde school shooting in Texas, police and the school resource officers, the SROs, acted quickly yesterday to save lives.
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him. And the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
That's Barrow County, Georgia Sheriff Judd Smith. So today there will be obviously more news conferences as the investigation continues. The FBI and local law enforcement now will have plenty of questions to answer as far as the red flags, the warnings, what they did or didn't do, and why. There'll be all the talk about gun control, but let's talk about the SRO for a moment. The school resource officer. Here in Florida, every school has some type of law enforcement inside the school, thanks to Governor DeSantis and the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Safety Act. Marjory Stoneman Douglas High was the high school in Parkland, the Parkland school shooting. I can tell you, My kids, middle school and high school, both had SROs, and they would tell you that it definitely made them feel safer. As a parent, you would have to ask yourself, why would anyone be against having school resource officers or some type of law enforcement in the school, right? Any guess who wants to get rid of SROs?
And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools.
Vice President Kamala Harris, when she was running for president back in 2020, demilitarize schools and take police officers out of schools. And don't forget, her values have not changed. I guarantee you, many of the mothers that are supporting Harris now have no clue that she wants to eliminate police from schools. Research shows a lot of people supporting Harris don't know a lot about her at all, as Newsmax reporter Mike Carter found out on the streets of Washington, D.C.
New poll out of Media Research Center surveyed 1,200 registered Democrats and independent Biden voters. They asked them, are you aware of this is where Kamala Harris stands on some of these issues? One of them, Harris would consider allowing death row inmates to vote. Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's pretty ridiculous to me.
That sounds insane to me. At one time, Kamala Harris was in favor of defunding the police in this country. Now, she was a former Attorney General of California, former district attorney. Did you know that she supported this?
I had absolutely no idea.
How's San Francisco looking these days? Well, it's 2019, Harris was named the most liberal U.S. senator in America. Did you know that?
I had no idea, no. From the sound of it, I mean, like, that's a little surprising. I didn't know.
Harris supported the elimination of private health insurance. Were you aware of that?
Are you trying to make me cry?
Harris promoted a fund to bail out violent protesters during the 2020 riots.
You should be held accountable for what you're doing. You don't have the right to riot and burn.
Harris co-sponsored the Green New Deal. Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't. I actually don't know what that is.
Does Kamala Harris know what it is?
Probably not.
Yeah, because she's in support of fracking now. You're an independent voter. You haven't made up your mind on who you're going to vote for yet. Who are you vibing with right now?
A little bit on Kamala Harris.
What's her number one policy issue that she stands for that you like?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I guess it's just like I get the good vibes from her.
No policies, though? What do you like about her?
Her vibes. For now, it's her vibes. I have to look into it before I make a final decision.
There's a lot of joy.
A lot of joy, for sure.
In Washington, for Newsmax, I'm Mike Carter.
Thank you, Mike. A lot of joy, a lot of laughing. But it's really not funny. It's sad that people who say they support her don't even know why they support her. More from the Chris Salcedo Show and political analyst Mark Halperin.
After a lifetime of left-wing extremism and policies, Kamala Harris says she didn't mean any of it. She's backtracking on all of it. As we're a little over 2 months away from Election Day and early voting is about ready to get underway any day now, what's your sense? Can the biased press provide enough cover for Kamala so she can convince people that she's just changed all of her, decades-long held positions?
So, Chris, there's a group of people who cover the White House and cover the Democratic presidential campaign who are the exact same group of people who for years participated actively in the cover-up of Joe Biden's loss of mental acuity. If they were willing to engage in the cover-up of that, some because they wanted to not help Trump and some because they were intimidated by the Democrats, why would we think that group would behave any differently now in the home stretch?
It's a fair point. Reuters says that Kamala Harris will goad President Trump, call out what she deems are lies, and then create, quote, social media moments. No talk of articulating a plan to improve the lives of the American people. There'll be none of that. If you can address that and also address your sources where they're telling you that Harris is not only behind in some battleground states, including Pennsylvania, but she's likely to lose a state of Pennsylvania altogether. Talk about that, too.
Well, look, I can't falter if it's true that her strategy is to create what I call gladiatorial moments in the debate that put on social media. She'd be like any smart presidential candidate. That's the way debates work. So I can't falter for that if that's what she's doing. In terms of Pennsylvania, I was struck yesterday in a number of conversations I had with Democrats who know the state well, who say not just that she would lose Pennsylvania today, but that they find it challenging to imagine her winning it eventually. They don't rule it out, but they are concerned that on the current trajectory, she'd lose it. And as you know, Chris, when you play with the Electoral College map, without Pennsylvania, she can do it mathematically. It's not implausible, but it's much tougher for her to win this 270 electoral votes without Pennsylvania.
Newsmax political analyst Mark Halperin. And the Harris campaign says they have reluctantly agreed to the ABC debate rules. You know, the ones set in place by President Joe Biden, saying they are accepting to avoid Donald Trump backing out of the debate. They also said, as a prosecutor, she will be fundamentally disadvantaged by the format. This is Trump on Fox News last night.
If she gets in, I think we will have a depression, 1929 style depression. That's what I think will happen to our country.
The vice president is going back to Pennsylvania today. J.D. Vance is in Arizona today, traveling with his mom and his dog. A jury selection began in Los Angeles for Hunter Biden's federal tax evasion case brought on by special counsel David Weiss. Hunter faces 9 tax-related counts. He's accused of spending millions of dollars on his extravagant lifestyle without paying nearly $1.5 million in taxes while he was in the throes of a cocaine and crack addiction. Biden has pleaded not guilty to the charges. And the 2024 NFL season officially begins tonight. The Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, you know what that means, right? I'm not even going to say it, takes on the team they beat in the AFC Championship to get to the Super Bowl, the Baltimore Ravens. The stock markets opened in the red again this morning after weaker than expected hiring numbers from ADP, you know, the payroll company, showing private payrolls did not gain nearly as many jobs as had been expected. Tomorrow, I've mentioned it several times this week, if tomorrow is the big jobs report from the Labor Department, the one the feds really want to see before making any interest rate cuts. You can keep up with all of the news all day and night on Newsmax, Newsmax 2, and Newsmax.com. Be sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for all of your favorite shows, hosts, and guests. Greg Kelly reports, Rob Schmidt tonight, The Record with Greta Van Susteren, Carl Higbee, Bianca de la Garza, Wake Up America, the special programming, documentaries, and much more. Get signed up at NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's Friday Eve, right? And there's football. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.